Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward, and this is Face to Face. Our guest this week is Melissa Robinson. For more than 2 years, Robinson and her family have been thrust onto the national stage as they pushed for a search of a Winnipeg area landfill for their loved one Morgan Harris and other victims of a Winnipeg serial killer. Robinson is also the co-chair of Morgan's Warriors, an Indigenous women-led patrol named in honor of Morgan Harris, working to address systemic injustices. Melissa, thanks so much for being on the show this week.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Can you tell us a bit about where we are and what's about to happen?
So right now we're meeting here at the Aboriginal Centre, 181 Higgins Avenue. We're starting to group together to head out on an outreach walk with all of our volunteers.
For our viewers outside of Winnipeg, I guess, how would you describe this area?
This area? So this is a very high volume area. You know, a lot of our unsheltered take up space in and around this area. Our most vulnerable, a lot of the shelters are in and around this area. So there's a lot of drug use, a lot of alcohol use. So this area primarily is a good target area for us to come in and check in on people.
What are some of the other areas in the city that you go to?
So we come through here, we go through the north end as well, we go to the west end, we go through Central, we've been as far as St. Boniface. It's really wherever we need to go and wherever the need is.
What are some of the things that you see out on your patrols?
We've come across all kinds of different things. So we don't really like to say patrols, we like to say outreach walks because we're going above and beyond just that, you know, patrolling. And, you know, when people think patrolling, they automatically think police as well. And we don't want to have that stigma, you know, over us. So we say outreach because the work we're doing is a little bit different in the sense that it doesn't just go from 7 to 11 p.m. If we come across a situation where there's a lady in distress and needs our assistance with going to the hospital, we had a lady a month ago that needed to go to detox. We assisted her with that, you know, walked through every step of the way with her. We had a lady that was looking to get home up north. We also helped with that. So every day is kind of different. The different things that we do deal with while being out here, though, is a lot of our volunteers are trained in Narcan as well. So I've come across quite a few overdoses where I've had to administer it. And, you know, just being a presence in the community, letting everyone know that they matter. And that's what we're there to do.
Can you talk about, you know, you had a pretty big contingent here, where some of these people are coming from in their own lives and why they've hooked up with you?
You know what, every single one of these people behind me are all friends. They've all been touched in one way or another through MMIWG, through loss, through addictions, seeing, you know, their families go through homelessness, kind of just everything. And they all want to help in some way, you know. So it's not about us, you know, doing that photo op or us tracking hours, you know. These people are giving of their time and they want to come out and they want to help. And I say that to them all the time. The most valuable thing you can give of yourself is that of your time.
Can you give us a sense of why you wanted to start Morgan's Warriors?
So Morgan's Warriors, to me, you know, to Elle, to my husband, to the rest of my family, we wanted to remember my cousin in a good way and not remember her as, you know, a homicide victim to a serial killer. You know, so we wanted to honor her name, and we wanted to do the work that maybe was being missed while she was living out on the streets. So, you know, extending our hours, or, you know, my husband, part of the other work we do is we search for our missing women. So that is usually after hours, and you know, so we also are engaged in that. It's it was all about that love for her, and to remember her in a good way and to honor her in a good way.
People familiar with Winnipeg will be familiar with some of the other outreach groups that there are. There's a number of them in Winnipeg. You were a part of a previous one, met your husband through one.
I did.
Why were these outreach groups something that you first got involved with?
I originally got involved with the Bear Clan Patrol was after I lost my brother. So I lost my brother 7 years ago, almost 8 years ago. He committed suicide. And me being the oldest child, I had a really hard time with that. I lost myself, I fell into a really deep depression and just couldn't see the light anymore in anything. And it was my cousin Doggy that said, Melissa, we need to do something. We need to give back in some way. And so that's why we started walking with Bear Clan. And I did that for 7 years. Like you said, I met my husband through there. And, I loved it, but there was a lot of red tape involved with the work I could do. In the end, I became the coordinator and I ran the patrols. But I was limited on what I could and could not do. Like, I couldn't wear our vests after hours when we were taking food out to the encampments. I wasn't allowed to go out searching for women outside those hours, So when I spoke to our group originally, when we were starting, I said, when wearing this work never stops. So when you become part of our group, I want you to be on the lookout all the time. It's not just a 7 to 11. So you're going to work in the morning, you see someone laying on the ground, please stop your car, go check on them. It'll take 2 minutes, you could save their life. So just all of those things and me wanting to be more involved in the community.
I guess aside from the red tape and the things that you mentioned, what would you say are some of the things that sets Morgan's Warriors apart from some of the other outreach that's happened?
Well, we were inspired, by my cousin, Morgan Harris. We're family led. It was just a thought, 6 months ago, where me and my niece Elle, who is my cousin Morgan's daughter, said, what, we want to do something. We want to help in some way. What can we do? And she had just started patrolling in February, loved the work, and we said, okay, well, you know what? Let's do something on our own. Let's make it big and better, and go all out. So,
feeling like you're already making a difference?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Just in the 2 months we've been out, the things that we've done and the relationships that we've established has just been amazing. We were able to help a lady that was living in an encampment along the river get into housing even. So it's just all those little things, right, that matter. The lady that needed help getting into treatment, we offered her a safe place to detox that first night, to get her into the clinic the next morning at 8:30. So we stayed with her all night and provided that safe space, took her. I sat with her, with the counselor, with the doctor, saw her right through to the end. So.
Nice, great work. Melissa, more to talk about here. I know you're going to do a smudge. It's an important night and we're going to get into some of those reasons. Just got to step aside for a quick break and then we'll have more here on Face to Face with Melissa Robinson. Stick around.
We are the ones making the difference in the community. We are the ones going above and beyond. We are the ones showing that every single person out here matters.
Welcome back to Face to Face. Our guest this week is Melissa Robinson, and we're out here with Morgan's Warriors, created in honor of your cousin. What do you want people to know about Morgan?
Morgan was feisty. She was loving. And she was all about her family. And, when the system failed her and took her kids, she then lost herself. And, so looking at everything like that, there needs to be changes in regards to how, families are dealt with. But, most of all, I want people to remember her as being a mom of 5. You know, boy, she made some amazing girls with some amazing voices, and you know, she was just a fun-loving, you know, girl from the time she was young right up until she ended up on the streets. And it was sad, you know. You never want to see that for your own family. But at that time, our hands were tied. I didn't know about, you know, the different things that were offered out here. So now I want to better myself with my own knowledge so that I can help others and hopefully prevent something like this from happening again.
When you're out here talking to people, you know, things like the child welfare system, residential schools, how often are you hearing from people out on the streets that those systems had an impact on them as well?
Oh, huge. You know, we're going to be going down Main Street tonight, and we're going to see, you know, hundreds probably of people that are going to be lined up along the streets of Maine, intoxicated, you know, struggling with that trauma that they've experienced from the residential schools, from our child welfare, you know, foster homes, you know, being placed in homes that maybe aren't, you know, doing it for the right reasons. And, you know, it's sad. It's really sad because there's definitely not enough resources out there for, you know, our IRS. And, you know, my dad is a survivor. But my dad chooses not to speak about it, you know, so he's doing it in his own way. But then there's lots of people that are struggling, you know, so that's the route they take, right? And to kind of mask that pain.
You've talked about how your family, your nieces in particular, have had to grieve on a national stage in front of a national audience. Did you ever think that that would be the case just to bring home your loved one?
You know, I still can't believe everything we've had to go through the last couple of years, you know, with fighting every single level of government, begging for them to search a landfill so that, you know, my girls don't have to go to a landfill to pay their respects to their mom, to lay flowers down at Mother's Day, to do any of that. You know, we've all grieved. We've all had many losses since the loss of Morgan. I've lost my own son, and I've had to, you know, continue with everything, you know, so no, it's definitely not fair. Things need to change, and so we're just trying to take those little steps in the right direction.
Searching the landfill, which most people think should have just been done, became a political issue, which has been widely criticized. Was that one of the most difficult things throughout these, you know, 2+ years, having this become a political issue like that in a campaign?
Absolutely. You know, driving around the city, seeing, you know, billboards, you know, say no to the dig. Like, how do you sleep at nighttime? You know, how do you feel good about yourself putting that out, you know, knowing that it's our women laying in landfills. Their remains are there. They deserve a proper burial. That we could not wrap our heads around when all of it was happening. I know we had lots of media reach out wanting to ask how we felt about it, and we were at a loss for words. We really were, because I thought, wow, how is this going in this direction? You know, so it was tough, definitely.
You've been again thrust onto this national stage, become advocates for MMIWG and a number of other things as well. Have you and the family faced you know, backlash from people out there for speaking up?
Oh yeah. There's, you know, there's been all kinds of threats, you know, to us, to our camp, you know, in all areas, you know, saying things about our character that are untrue. And, you know, at times it hurts, you know, but I would remind the girls and the rest, you know, like, we know it's not true. You know, those are, you know, people with mean hearts. So let's not become them, and let's not let it destroy us. You know, continue on with what we're doing. We know that the work we're doing is good, and we're just going to keep pushing forward with it.
When we talk about, you know, the importance of using their voices, and mentioned in the smudge here tonight, this is the first outreach since the passing of Grand Chief Kathy Merrick. How important was her voice in all of this so far over the past 2 years?
You know, as she was with us since the beginning. Like I said earlier, she was elected in on a by-election in October of 2022. We found out about my cousin Morgan December 1st of 2022. So she was only in power about a month and a half, and she was with us from that moment, you know, through everything. She looked after us. She, you know, got us places that, you know, I'm sure we couldn't have been able to do on our own. So she was really that power and that strength behind everything, and you know, she gave us so much to look up to, and you know, that's why it was important to come back out. You know, it's not only to honor Morgan, it's not only to honor, you know, other loved ones, but it's to honor her. You know, she told me all the time how proud she was of the work that we were doing, you know, the heart work. Yeah.
Still fresh, obviously, but do you have concerns that you've lost that voice?
She's trained us pretty good. Yeah, she's definitely, you know, if you look at us from then to now, you know, she's really given us, we had so many times where we got to sit alone with her and listen to her teachings and that guidance on what we need to do and how we can continue pushing forward. And you know, I have no doubt that we'll be fine, because she'll be right there with us in spirit.
You've spoken about how Prairie Green Landfill, the search there, that's just the beginning. Given the fight that it's been over the last 2 years, you want to get Brady Landfill searched?
Absolutely.
Do you think that there's the political will there? Are you going to have this fight that has just gone on really for 2 years?
I don't think we're going to need to fight as hard, because I'm sure that once we start Prairie Green, there's going to be more found, we'll say, than what we're going in looking for. And sitting at that table in the legislative with the provincial government, they're well aware too that very well could happen. So I am certain that once we are done the Prairie Green, we will have no problems pushing forward with the Brady.
Melissa, more to talk about here. We just have to step aside for one last quick break, and then we'll continue the conversation here with Melissa Robinson on Face to Face. Welcome back to Face to Face. Our guest this week is Melissa Robinson, and we're out here in Winnipeg in the Main and Higgins area with Morgan's Warriors. I guess, Melissa, can you give us some sense of where things are at with, you know, the search beginning?
Well, that's the thing. I'm not allowed to say too much. I did sign off on a thing that I wouldn't speak about what's happening behind closed doors, but I can guarantee you that there is tons of work happening over there and things are moving fast. So it will begin before the end of this year. I can say that much.
As somebody who sees, you know, some of the issues that the city is dealing with, you know, our previous police chief who refused to search the landfill has now retired. This city is looking for a new police chief. Do you have hopes, or do you think that a new police chief will make any difference in what's been going on in this city for many years?
I don't believe so, no. We've never had a police chief that has been for Indigenous peoples. You know, looking back at the number of chiefs that have come through our Winnipeg police, there's not one of them, I think, that's, you know, that held that bar. And Danny Smythe, well, you know, I don't got the nicest words when thinking of him. You know, just because of that complete, no, it can't be done. You know, no, and this is why it can't be done. But here we are 2 years later doing it. So, you know, our reaction to that was they just didn't want to do it. They didn't feel like our women were worthy enough to do it. You know, so that's how we look at things.
The families, the Assembly of First Nations, chiefs from across this country want to have backed a public inquiry. What would you like to see happen with that? What are you hoping that comes of those calls?
Someone needs to be responsible for not doing their job. And I believe it's the Winnipeg Police. They need to be held accountable for their lack of work, their lack of investigating, their lack of commitment to our people and helping our people. Again, it comes down to how does one sleep at nighttime knowing that we have people laying in a landfill? I just can't wrap my head around it, and I think part of that reason is maybe he got to the end of his thing and said, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore either, and realizing that we're not going to stop and we're going to continue pushing forward to make sure that someone is held accountable, not only for Morgan, but for all of our women.
Again, as somebody who's out here dealing with some of the most vulnerable, if you had the ear of all those in power and all the money in the world, what would be some of the things that you would be recommending that we could be doing to help our relatives out here?
First and foremost, we need to have space, a safe space for our women. We talk firsthand with our relatives in the community. And yes, we have shelters in and around the area. One of them, if you're under the influence of anything, they won't allow you inside. It could be -40 outside. They won't allow you inside. So how are you able to know if that's a mental health or that's an under the influence of something, right? Because they're very similar when it comes to, looking at them. Another shelter just around the corner here. When talking with our women at the encampments along the river, I'm like, why don't you, we can help you get in there. We'll take you over there. They don't feel safe there because it's like 3 staff for 100 people in a big common room. Who's looking after our women? We need to have a women's only facility where it's run by women for our women and somewhere safe for them to go. I know of Velma's house, but Velma's house is limited with their hours. They're open during the day, but not at nighttime. To me that makes no sense. We need to have facilities that are open 24/7 and that are servicing just our women. So.
Just lastly here, Melissa, I understand that there's a documentary that's being made. I believe it's called The Blood Remembers. What can you tell us about that?
I don't know too much about it, so I can't really speak too much, but I do know that J.R. Howell, who is originally from Florida, he was an attorney out there, lives in Montreal now. He reached out to us like a year ago and has been putting things together, coming out for visits. He's been to Camp Morgan. He's met us in Montreal, and he's here again for the next 2 weeks. So just, picking our brains on different things we want to see happen. And so we're excited to see this. I don't know too much. I don't want to know too much. I want to wait to see the finished product.
Looking forward to that as well. Melissa, can't thank you enough for doing the show and for all the work you do and for letting us come out here.
Absolutely.
Really
Thank you, Dennis.
That is all the time we have for Face to Face this week. This episode and all past episodes are also available as podcasts. You can get those wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Dennis Ward. Thanks for being with us. We will be back here in 7 days.